Ghost Recon Breakpoint is now out, and to celebrate, Ubisoft have pulled a massive U-turn on some of the game's most controversial microtransactions following widespread criticism from the community. Their rationale for making the changes is shaky at best though, and it seems very likely that we've not seen the end of them for good. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another industry report. Today we've got a major update on the Ghost Recon Breakpoint situation, as well as initial takes now that reviews have came out, and it's become quite clear that the business model of this game has actually impacted a good bit of its gameplay. Of course, be sure to like, sub, and ring that bell to let YouTube know you like the channel, and let's get into it. So we reported earlier this week the extensive suite of microtransactions found in Ghost Recon Breakpoint, but in case you missed it, you could basically buy everything. People who had purchased the Ultimate and Gold Editions of the game got access to it a few days early, and that's what gave us our first look at this store. And beyond typical items such as cosmetics, Ultimate and Gold players were able to purchase things such as skill points to, replace the task of having to level up in the game. One of Breakpoint's few new ideas, the blueprint system, was also rendered needless by the shop. This system involved the player, exploring the overworld, obtaining blueprints for new weapons and equipment, which could then be crafted using resources that they also gained through exploration. So, sounds like a video game. Or you could just purchase blueprints and crafting materials from the store. Not really the most enticing gameplay change in the world, given that it essentially replaces the really good system in Ghost Recon Wildlands that worked, where each weapon and attachment had a specific location on the map, and they were obtained by you clearing strongholds, by actually doing content and playing the game you paid for. Now, the microtransactions that attracted the most criticism were those called Timesavers. In Breakpoint's case, these Timesavers took the form of skill point bundles, experience boosters, and the various parts bundles for upgrading weapons. These Timesavers allowed people to quickly gain levels and upgrades without having to unlock them in-game. So, about that U-turn they made, well, just before the game's release, Ubisoft made a statement revealing that these Timesavers were erroneously included in the store, and that they have therefore been removed for the time being. The statement, given to PCGamesN.com, reads that during the early access of Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint on October 1st, some Timesaver items, skill point bundles, XP boosters, and parts bundles for advanced weapon upgrades were available for purchase for a few hours in our store, but that was not our intention and was an error on our behalf. By the sounds of it though, we've not seen the last of the Timesavers, because their update goes on to say these items were designed as an optional way for players arriving later in the game post-launch to catch up with those who have been playing for longer and to enjoy our co-op and challenging endgame experiences. These Timesavers have since been removed from our store for now. So it seems like Ubisoft may have jumped the gun on including so many microtransactions so quickly right away, but it looks like pretty much all of them will be back quite soon. Now, this could be as soon as 2 weeks after release, because that's when the Breakpoint store is set to add a rewards booster option for people who want to speed up their battle pass progression. And what makes the abundance of microtransactions, I think, so worrying for players is also the relationship between Breakpoint's PvP and PvE modes, which is a little bit bizarre. As baffling as it is to sell actual gameplay rewards in a microtransaction shop, like in the most recent, say, Assassin's Creed games, those, advantages are often isolated to each individual's experience. It's really more problematic though if it seemed to be a pay-to-win thing in, say, a PvP mode. The thing is, of course, this game does have a PvP mode. Now, Ubisoft have been delivering a lot of mixed messages with regards to how single-player progression actually affects the multiplayer experience. As detailed in the previous report, the marketing blurb on the Ubisoft website was keen to say that your character's XP level, specialization rank, equipment level, and belongings are shared. However, it's a little bit different, because when you look at the official Ghost Recon Breakpoint website, it does say something slightly different. It says that although players can easily move between PvE and PvP while keeping the same character and progression, there are limits in play. The post reads that gear levels are disabled in the PvP mode, and that weapons have PvP specific damage, and caps are put in place to lower the max values of stats coming in from gear and weapons. The result of this, it says, is that the progression tree does not dramatically impact the balance of power between you and all players, players, and it wraps up by confirming that PvP will have skill-based matchmaking. Now, this is a bit of a melting pot of conflicted messages here, and it does kind of raise a few thoughts. Either Ubisoft have a loose definition of the word dramatically, and the PvP and PvE modes will have more interplay than they're letting on, or having shared progression is basically pointless because it's not really going to affect anything. There's no point in offering the ability to close the gap between an experienced player and a new player if that gap doesn't matter. Plus, even if they're normalizing damage values as they do in, say, The Division 2, well, like, if a gun has a place in the PvP meta that is more powerful, that would be problematic. Take Destiny 2 as an example of a game that has a whole bunch of different weapons. It has a PvP meta and a PvE meta, and it does, a lot of scaling to sort of close the gap between players. Now, the thing is, if you could just outright purchase weapons in Destiny 2, well, you could just work out what is the perfect, meta-compliant PvP build, and you could just buy that, and you would do better than people who don't buy that. And in that case, yeah, it pretty much would be pay to win. So I'm assuming that still is going to be the case here, and if that is the case, then yes, these would be pay to win in PvP microtransactions, because the person with the meta build is the person who's going to win, and yeah, you're going to be defeated by those players all the time, and Ubisoft are just, going to provide you a way to instantly get that without grinding through the store. That right now seems to be what it's going to be like. At any rate, as it stands, the launch version is not going to have the time savers. That totally is a good thing, but of course, they're going to be there in the future. Ubisoft have pretty much said that. Now, it not being there will benefit the game in the long run. I think it'll be better for its start in the market. As we said in our report the other day, the sheer number of purchasable items in Breakpoint was just maximally absurd, and the majority of the media covered surrounding this game was pretty much covering the monetization element. Even reviews of the game were poking fun at its microtransactions, because the reviews, of course, were written using advanced codes, where, of course, the time savers were still live on the store. This deserved backlash, absolutely, and it's kind of funny how they managed to, I guess, overshadow some other elements of its progression system. Like, you've got the Battle Pass, which was decently well received. Of course, a Battle Pass, right, it's their incarnation of the standard habit formation tool of the industry, but it was all free. It offered 50 tiers of progression. Each one had its own reward, ranging from cosmetics to blueprints to vehicles and emotes. Every other tier gave you basically a loot crate, and that would drop one random item from a pool of 20 different items, and you would eventually get all of the items. As far as battle passes went, it was pretty good, but of course there is that booster that they're planning to launch in 2 weeks relating to that, which, again, you just look at this game and it's becoming more and more of a live service hellscape. And I think on that, it's funny because Ubisoft could have been onto a winner if it was not for their microtransaction failures. Now, sure, they said that the time savers were not meant to be there from launch, but you know what? I find that really questionable. I'm pretty sure that if there was no backlash, they would have just kept them in. After all, Assassin's Creed Odyssey had its time savers from day one. A big AAA like that's just not going to accidentally launch a full store, in my opinion anyway. Now, this entire story's been absurd. This is a full-price game after all. Will you actually want to play it? That's the other question here, and currently it seems that the answer might be no. The game is struggling technically, as seems to be the norm for AAA releases these days. Further to that, it's far more RPG-like, complete with a gear score-based progression system, one that makes no sense in a one-shot, one-takedown series like this, and it actually mainly just matters for the hostile drones. Yes, you heard it right, they pretty much put drones into the game that act as a gear check on your average gear score, which is a bit absurd. And yeah, they're clearly just trying to replicate the replayable, grindable success of The Division 2, turning Ghost Recon into yet another live service pillar of their business. Now, reviews for the game have been mixed at best. They've been averaging around the low 60s, and it just seems to be, at best, just another Ubisoft title with all the trappings we have come to expect. It seems, though, that for those who are interested in the Ghost Recon experience, well, it's moved away from that. Now, across their titles, it's clear how Ubisoft have homogenized the direction of their game towards live service models. They've managed to make Assassin's Creed into a live service with microtransactions from day one. Wildlands seemingly had a successful post-launch life, with updates bringing new gear, new content to play, things like that, and it was well received. By all accounts, it was actually an excellently supported game, but most importantly, it was still a Ghost Recon game. And I think that what we've seen here is the business model begin to impact the design of the game, and that is worrying, I think, for people who just want a pure shooter experience that's not bogged down by all of the RPG trappings that more and more games just seem to thrust at us purely for reasons of engagement. And I think because of that, I look at this game and I just feel so tired. you know, it just feels like it's been moving away from the core of what it's supposed to be, and that most of the reason for that isn't really the design of the game, it's the business motivations of Ubisoft. I think it's just so clear when you're seeing a Tom Clancy Ghost Recon game, you know, like basically have gear score in it. Now, to give you an example here, take Rainbow Six. Well, Rainbow Six, way back in the day, and Ghost Recon, they were both pretty hardcore, like, trying to be milsim games, right? Pretty much. And, you know, look what's happened now. Siege has been lucky. Siege turned into really a gameplay first experience, and that's brilliant, but yeah, Siege, I mean, it could have quite easily went in the Ghost Recon direction, because with Ghost Recon and Siege, you've got games that had very similar original DNA, and you just look at how different they are now and just the direction they've pulled Ghost Recon in. It really is sad. It does make me wonder, just for the future of gaming, I suppose, are we going to see more and more and more just a push in this direction? I mean, I don't even think that's a valid question for me to ask. I think the answer is something we already know. The answer pretty much is yes. They're going to go for as much, engagement as they can. We're going to have more RPG-like progression systems. We're going to have more gear score-based, gear progression in our games. We're going to have more battle passes in games that really don't need battle passes. Soon the gaming experience, and for many players already the gaming experience is, here's all the games that I play, every single one of them has a battle pass. Like, every single one of them is using some sort of FOMO habit formation thing. I've got to wonder that between games trying so hard to engage you using mental ticks, and Twitter, social media, all of these pressures, I just have to wonder if people are just going to start feeling burnt out towards elements of the world, because I certainly am feeling that. And I suppose I'm just wondering, like, if you grew up in the same period of gaming that I did, like in the, the very early 2000s onwards, does a lot of this modern stuff just make you feel tired? Like, I don't know if it's just me getting older, but I'd actually love to hear what you got to say about that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know what you think down below, and with that, I will see you next time.